We live in a world that constantly asks us to perform, to put on a facade of who we are expected to be. From the moment we wake up, there is a social script we follow, a job title, a role in the family, a digital persona we maintain on social media. But is that really who we are? Or is it just a mask we wear to fit into the expectations of others? Nietzsche, one of the most radical and misunderstood philosophers, saw through this illusion. He called it the herd mentality, the trap of living a life dictated by society rather than one shaped by your true inner self. But what does it mean to escape this trap? And more importantly, how can we do it? When we talk about Nietzsche, we can't ignore his famous declaration, "God is dead." This wasn't just a provocative statement about religion. It was Nietzsche's way of saying that the old systems of meaning, religion, tradition, societal values were crumbling. For Nietzsche, this collapse presented both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge was that without these external sources of meaning, people would fall into despair, into nihilism. They would feel that life had no purpose. But the opportunity was far more interesting. Without these external guides, we are free to create our own meaning. We are no longer bound by the expectations of others. We can become what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the overman, or the one who transcends the limitations of society and creates their own values. But this is where it gets tricky. Most of us are trapped in what Nietzsche would call the fake self. This is the self that conforms to external pressures, the self that follows the herd. And this is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes so relevant today. Look around you. How much of what you do, what you say, how you dress, is dictated by what others expect of you? How much of your identity is shaped by the need for approval, for validation from others? Nietzsche saw this as the greatest danger of modern life, the risk that we would lose ourselves in the pursuit of fitting in. So how do we escape this trap? How do we break free from the fake self and discover our true essence? Nietzsche's answer was both simple and profound. We must undergo a process of self-overcoming. This means that we must constantly challenge ourselves, question our own assumptions, and be willing to destroy the parts of ourselves that are not authentic. It's not enough to simply reject society's norms. We must actively create new values, new ways of being that are true to our deepest selves.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But this is easier said than done. Most of us are so deeply embedded in our social roles that we don't even realize we're wearing a mask. We have become so accustomed to playing the part that we mistake the part for who we really are. And this is why Nietzsche's philosophy is so powerful. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that much of what we think of as self is actually a construct, a performance designed to please others. Nietzsche challenges us to strip away the layers of illusion and ask ourselves, who am I, really? I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself that question. Who are you really? Not the person you present to the world, not the version of yourself that seeks approval, validation, or success, but the raw, unfiltered you. Have you ever truly met that person? Or have you spent your entire life running from them, hiding behind the mask of the fake self? Nietzsche's philosophy is not for the faint of heart. It requires immense courage to confront the truth about who we are. It requires us to face the fact that much of what we hold dear, our beliefs, our values, our very identity, may be nothing more than a facade. But Nietzsche also believed that this confrontation was the only path to true freedom. Only by tearing down the fake self can we begin to build a life that is truly our own. But how do we begin this process of self-overcoming? How do we break free from the chains of societal expectation and discover our true essence? Nietzsche offers us a roadmap, but it's not a straightforward one. It's not a list of easy steps or a simple formula for success. Instead, it's a call to action, a challenge to each of us to become our own creators, to take responsibility for our own existence. One of Nietzsche's key concepts is the idea of eternal recurrence, the notion that every moment of our lives will be repeated over and over again for eternity. Now, this might sound terrifying at first, but Nietzsche intended it as a kind of test. If you knew that every decision you made, every action you took, would be repeated endlessly, would you still choose to live the way you are living? Or would you make different choices? The idea of eternal recurrence forces us to confront the question, am I living authentically? Or am I simply going through the motions, following the script that society has written for me? Think about your own life for a moment. If you knew that every moment of it would be repeated forever, would you be satisfied with the way you are living? Or would you feel trapped, stuck in a cycle of inauthenticity? This is the challenge that Nietzsche presents to us. He asks us to look at our lives with brutal honesty and ask ourselves, am I really living? Or am I just existing? Nietzsche believed that most people are content to simply exist. They follow the rules, do what is expected of them, and avoid conflict. But he also believed that this kind of existence is a form of death, a living death, in which we are cut off from our true potential. The Übermensch, by contrast, is someone who embraces life fully, who takes risks, who is willing to destroy the old self in order to create something new. But how do we find the courage to do this? How do we break free from the fake self and embrace the uncertainty of becoming? Nietzsche's answer is that we must cultivate a kind of spiritual toughness, a willingness to endure discomfort, to face the unknown, and to accept that life is inherently chaotic and unpredictable. This is what Nietzsche called amor fati, the love of fate. It means embracing everything that happens to us, both the good and the bad, as part of the process of becoming who we are. But this isn't just about accepting our circumstances passively. Nietzsche's concept of amor fati is about actively loving our fate, seeing every challenge, every hardship as an opportunity for growth. It's about recognizing that even the most difficult moments in life are essential parts of our journey toward becoming our true selves. Now, I know this can be a difficult idea to accept. Most of us, when faced with hardship, want to escape it, to avoid it, to blame others or the world for our suffering. But Nietzsche challenges us to do the opposite. He asks us to embrace our suffering, to see it as a necessary part of the process of self-overcoming. Because without suffering, without struggle, there can be no growth. There can be no transformation. So, I want to ask you, are you willing to embrace your fate? Are you willing to face the discomfort, the uncertainty, the chaos that comes with shedding the fake self and discovering who you really are? Or will you continue to hide behind the mask, playing the role that society has assigned to you? As we move deeper into Nietzsche's philosophy, we must now confront the idea of rebellion. Nietzsche believed that in order to escape the fake self, we must become rebels, not in the sense of violent revolution, but in the sense of rebelling against the values and norms that have been imposed upon us. This is not an easy task. It requires us to question everything we have been taught, to challenge the very foundations of our identity. But what does it mean to rebel? For Nietzsche, rebellion is not just about rejecting societal norms, it's about creating something new in their place. It's about becoming a creator, a maker of values, rather than a follower of rules. This is where Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch becomes so powerful. The Übermensch is not just someone who rejects the old ways of being, it's someone who has the courage to create their own path, to forge their own identity in the face of uncertainty. But how do we do this? How do we become creators of our own values? Nietzsche's answer is deceptively simple. We must learn to trust ourselves. We must stop looking to others for validation, for approval, and start listening to our own inner voice. This is easier said than done. Most of us have been conditioned from a young age to seek approval from others, to base our sense of self-worth on how we are perceived by those around us. But Nietzsche challenges us to break free from this conditioning. He asks us to look within ourselves and find the courage to live according to our own values, rather than the values imposed upon us by society. But this is where the real challenge lies. Most of us don't even know what our true values are. We have spent so long playing the role of the fake self that we have lost touch with our own inner truth. This is why Nietzsche believed that the path to authenticity is not a comfortable one. It requires us to go through a process of deconstruction, a process of tearing down the false self in order to discover what lies beneath. Think about your own life for a moment. How much of what you believe, how much of what you value is truly your own, and how much of it has been shaped by the expectations of others, by your family, your culture, your society? Nietzsche believed that most people are living lives that are not their own. They are following a script that was written for them by others, and as a result, they have lost touch with their true selves. But Nietzsche also believed that it is possible to reclaim our authenticity. It is possible to break free from the fake self and discover who we really are. But this requires immense courage. It requires us to be willing to stand alone, to face the uncertainty of life without the safety net of societal approval. I want you to ask yourself, are you living a life that is truly your own? Or are you simply following the script that has been handed to you by others? This is the challenge that Nietzsche presents to each of us. He asks us to look at our lives with brutal honesty and ask ourselves, am I really living according to my own values? Or am I simply playing a role, fulfilling the expectations of others? Nietzsche didn't believe that rebellion was just about rejecting the old ways of being. He believed it was about finding the courage to create something new in their place. This is the essence of the Übermensch, the one who transcends the limitations of the herd and becomes a creator of values. But how do we find the courage to do this? How do we break free from the fake self and embrace the uncertainty of becoming? Nietzsche's answer is that we must cultivate a kind of spiritual toughness, a willingness to endure discomfort, to face the unknown, and to accept that life is inherently chaotic and unpredictable. This is what Nietzsche called amor fati, the love of fate. It means embracing everything that happens to us, both the good and the bad, as part of the process of becoming who we are. But this isn't just about accepting our circumstances passively. Nietzsche's concept of amor fati is about actively loving our fate, seeing every challenge, every hardship, as an opportunity for growth. It's about recognizing that even the most difficult moments in life are essential parts of our journey toward becoming our true selves. Now, I know this can be a difficult idea to accept. Most of us, when faced with hardship, want to escape it, to avoid it, to blame others or the world for our suffering. But Nietzsche challenges us to do the opposite. He asks us to embrace our suffering, to see it as a necessary part of the process of self-overcoming. Because without suffering, without struggle, there can be no growth. There can be no transformation. So I want to ask you, are you willing to embrace your fate? Are you willing to face the discomfort, the uncertainty, the chaos that comes with shedding the fake self and discovering who you really are? Or will you continue to hide behind the mask, playing the role that society has assigned to you? As we reach the final part of our journey into Nietzsche's philosophy, we must now confront the ultimate challenge: becoming who we truly are. Nietzsche believed that the highest goal in life is to become who you are, to discover your true essence and live in accordance with it. But this is not a passive process. It requires constant effort, constant self-overcoming. It requires us to be willing to destroy the parts of ourselves that are not authentic in order to make room for the parts that are. But how do we know who we truly are? How do we distinguish between the fake self and the true self? Nietzsche's answer is that we must learn to listen to our inner voice, the voice of our instincts, our desires, our passions. This is not the voice of societal expectations or external validation. It is the voice of our deepest self, the part of us that knows what we truly want, what we truly need, in order to live an authentic life. But this is where the real challenge lies. Most of us have spent so long suppressing our inner voice that we have forgotten how to listen to it. We have been taught to prioritize reason over instinct, logic over desire. But Nietzsche believed that in order to become who we truly are, we must learn to trust our instincts, to follow our passions, even when they lead us down unconventional paths. This is what Nietzsche meant when he said, "Become who you are." It's not about becoming someone else or living up to someone else's expectations. It's about discovering your own unique path in life and having the courage to walk it, even when it goes against the grain of society. But this is not an easy path. It requires us to be willing to stand alone, to face the uncertainty of life without the safety net of societal approval. It requires us to take risks, to embrace failure, to be willing to fall and get back up again. Nietzsche believed that the path to authenticity is not a straight line. It is a process of constant self-overcoming, of constantly challenging ourselves to become more than we were before. But how do we find the strength to do this? How do we find the courage to become who we truly are? Nietzsche's answer is that we must learn to love ourselves, not in a narcissistic or self-indulgent way, but in a way that recognizes our own potential for growth and transformation. We must learn to see ourselves not as fixed entities, but as works in progress, constantly evolving, constantly becoming. This is the essence of Nietzsche's philosophy, the belief that we are not fixed, static beings, but dynamic, evolving creatures capable of infinite growth and transformation. And this is the secret to escaping the fake self-trap, to recognize that we are not bound by the roles and expectations that society has placed upon us. We are free to create our own path, to become who we truly are. But this freedom comes with a responsibility. It requires us to take ownership of our lives, to take responsibility for our choices, our actions, our destiny. Nietzsche believed that most people are afraid of this responsibility. They prefer to follow the herd, to live according to the rules and expectations of others, because it is easier, safer. But Nietzsche also believed that this kind of life is a form of death, a living death, in which we are cut off from our true potential. So I leave you with this final question. Are you willing to take the risk of becoming who you truly are? Are you willing to break free from the fake self and embrace the uncertainty of life, with all its chaos, its challenges, its unpredictability? This is Nietzsche's ultimate challenge, the challenge to live authentically, to create your own path, and to become who you truly are. Will you accept it? To accept Nietzsche's challenge is to embrace a life of uncertainty, but it is also to embrace a life of infinite possibility. Nietzsche's idea of becoming who you are is not a destination, but a journey. It's not about reaching a final, perfected state of being, but about constantly evolving, constantly questioning, and constantly pushing the boundaries of what you think is possible for yourself. This is why Nietzsche's philosophy is not just a set of ideas to be passively understood, it is a call to action, a way of life. But let's be honest, this path is not for everyone. Most of us are deeply conditioned to seek comfort, stability, and security. We are taught to avoid risk, to follow the well-trodden path, to prioritize safety over adventure. But Nietzsche believed that true freedom, the kind of freedom that allows us to become who we truly are, can only be found by stepping outside of these boundaries, by embracing the unknown, by allowing ourselves to be transformed by the challenges life throws at us. This is what Nietzsche meant when he talked about the will to power. Many people misunderstand this concept, thinking it refers to a desire for domination or control over others. But Nietzsche's will to power is not about external power, it's about internal power. It's about the power to shape your own life, to create your own values, to become the master of your own destiny. It's the strength to overcome the limitations that society, culture, and even our own minds impose on us. Think about your own life. How often do you make choices based on fear, fear of failure, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown? How often do you hold yourself back, staying in your comfort zone because it feels safe? Nietzsche would say that every time you make a decision based on fear, you are betraying your true self. You are denying your own potential for growth, for transformation, for greatness. But Nietzsche's philosophy is not about blaming yourself for these moments of weakness. It's not about guilt or shame. Instead, it's about recognizing that you have the power to change, to overcome these fears, to become stronger, more resilient, more authentic. This is the essence of self-overcoming, the ability to look at yourself honestly, to see where you are falling short, and to make the conscious decision to do better. But here's the thing, self-overcoming is not a one-time event. It's not something you do once and then you're done. It's a process that continues throughout your entire life. Nietzsche believed that life itself is a constant struggle, a struggle to overcome not just the external challenges we face, but the internal limitations we impose on ourselves. And this struggle is what gives life its meaning. Nietzsche famously said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." This is not just a motivational slogan, it's a profound statement about the nature of human existence. Nietzsche believed that every challenge, every hardship, every moment of suffering is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to become stronger, to become wiser, to become more fully yourself. But in order to take advantage of these opportunities, you have to be willing to face them head on. You have to be willing to embrace the discomfort, the pain, the uncertainty that comes with real growth. This is why Nietzsche placed so much emphasis on the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. To love your fate means to embrace everything that happens to you, both the good and the bad, as essential parts of your journey. It means recognizing that even the most difficult moments in life are opportunities for growth, for transformation, for self-overcoming. It means seeing every challenge as a gift, as a chance to become more fully yourself. But this is not an easy mindset to cultivate. Most of us, when faced with hardship, want to escape it. We want to blame others, to find a way out, to avoid the pain. But Nietzsche challenges us to do the opposite. He asks us to embrace the pain, to see it as a necessary part of the process of becoming who we are. He asks us to love our fate, to see every moment of life, no matter how difficult, as an essential part of our journey. I want you to think about a difficult moment in your own life, something that caused you pain, something that challenged you, something that forced you to question yourself. How did you respond to that moment? Did you try to escape it, to avoid it, to push it away? Or did you embrace it, allowing it to transform you, to make you stronger, to help you grow? Nietzsche believed that the only way to truly escape the fake self-trap is to embrace these moments of challenge, to see them as opportunities for self-overcoming. He believed that life is not about avoiding pain, but about using pain as a tool for growth. This is the path to authenticity, the path to becoming who you truly are. But what does it mean, in practical terms, to live this way? How do we apply Nietzsche's philosophy to our everyday lives? How do we break free from the fake self and start living authentically? The first step is to start questioning everything. Nietzsche believed that most of us live our lives on autopilot, following the rules and norms that society has imposed on us without ever questioning them. But in order to escape the fake self-trap, we have to start questioning these rules. We have to ask ourselves, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I value what I value? Are these beliefs and values truly my own, or have they been imposed on me by society, by culture, by other people? This process of questioning can be uncomfortable, even painful. It forces us to confront the fact that much of what we think of as our identity is actually a construct, a mask we wear to fit in, to seek approval, to avoid conflict. But this is a necessary step in the process of self-overcoming. We have to be willing to tear down the false self in order to discover what lies beneath. Once we begin this process of questioning, the next step is to start creating. Nietzsche believed that the key to living authentically is to become a creator, not just of art or music or literature, but of your own life. He believed that we must each become the creators of our own values, our own goals, our own path in life. This is what it means to become the Übermensch, the one who transcends the limitations of society and creates their own destiny. But this is not a solitary process. Nietzsche believed that true growth, true self-overcoming, requires engagement with the world. It's not about retreating into isolation or turning your back on society. It's about engaging with the world in a way that is authentic, that is true to who you are. It's about finding your own path, your own way of being, in the midst of the chaos and complexity of life. And this is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes not just a personal challenge, but a social one. Nietzsche believed that most people live in a state of complacency, content to follow the rules, to fit in, to avoid conflict. But he also believed that this kind of complacency is dangerous, not just for the individual, but for society as a whole. He believed that the only way to create a truly vibrant, dynamic society is for individuals to break free from the fake self-trap and start living authentically. So I want to leave you with one final question. What kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live a life of comfort, of safety, of conformity? Or do you want to live a life of authenticity, of self-overcoming, of constant growth and transformation? Nietzsche believed that the choice is ours. We can choose to follow the herd, to live according to the expectations of others, to stay trapped in the fake self. Or we can choose to become who we truly are, to embrace the chaos, the uncertainty, the challenges of life, and to use them as tools for growth. The path to authenticity is not an easy one. It requires courage, resilience, and a willingness to face the unknown. But it is also the only path that leads to true freedom, true fulfillment, true self-realization. This is Nietzsche's ultimate challenge, to escape the fake self trap and become who you truly are. Will you accept it?